What is going on, guys? Evanaldo here. Hope you guys are doing well. Um, you know, got the trades in. I got a long and short that were entered kind of at the same time, and we'll talk about that. It's long strategy. And then the Bitcoin long has done pretty well that I've been in, obviously, with profits, in. And I plan on probably taking more off off of that when you hit 108 here, if you hit 108. That is the if, I guess. And yeah, look, I mean, it's more about the strategy here, especially when we get into a potential situation where you can be, in a bear market. You can, enter a bear market, but will that enter immediately? I mean, if you look at the end of kind of 2021, things got pretty bearish, quickly. And we came down during January of the holidays. I don't think Christmas gave us much. 2021 was different. You kind of had to Santa rally. That was a more extended cycle now. I mean, I'm not saying you can't do that here, but I think we want to really, break above 108, 112 relatively soon if we want it to happen. If we look at the 3 day, I mean, one of two things is going to happen here, guys. If you take anything away from this more in the macro, one of two things is going to happen. Let me move this over a little bit. And what's up, Crypto Knight? One of two things is going to happen. And one is what we've been doing quite a few times. One, you jumped up. You come into this gray, and then that's kind of your, at least close to your bottom, and you jump up. Came into this gray here. Yeah, I mean, mind you, these did come down. Be careful. These did come down more before you jumped up, so that could happen. Right here was a pretty good bottom signal. Then you came up some more here. And this is kind of like your death cross or whatever. There's a ton of stuff to look at. I like these EMAs a little bit more than death cross because everyone looks at death cross as maybe a little bit more, less people looking at that or whatever, whatever it may be. So yeah, I mean, there's that, that drop down. This was, in your bear markets, this keeps going, this keeps going down quite a bit. And if we look at bear market corrections from when we saw this, and this is just one of the many signs that you could look at that are more bearish, that was 69% here. What's interesting too is in this little situation here, the reason why this is relevant is because when the Fed ended, it was basically kind of a bottom at that point, the last time the Fed ended QT. So if you think it's going to be more like 2019, the time would be to buy, right when it goes back. And the time, regardless, probably to buy, guys, is when it goes back into the brights here, which could be anywhere from a month or two, or 6 to 12 months from now. You know what I mean? So let's keep that in mind. That drop right there. You can add that drop, and then the next brights right there. So it obviously was a little while. Are there going to be battles to kind of come back to these levels? Absolutely. There could be one really soon. I mean, we could even, pump up to frickin' 116, maybe close to those all-time highs again, and then roll over from there. We got to keep that in mind. I think most likely the more bearish of situations here will probably play out. I think more likely the more bearish of situations will probably play out here. But obviously anything could happen. This time could be different. I think if you just look at, QT, let's go back to 2019 here. End of QT in general was kind of like that beginning of August, got to jump into it, and then you kind of fell off for quite a bit, that kind of era. Here we're hitting the grays. We hit the grays later here, so there's that. I don't know if you want, I mean, without pandemic, we probably would have just slowly grazed upward, throughout this area. And then, probably saw your mania phase still towards the end of 2020. I mean, there are different situations here. With all the money printed and all that, it's hard to, go back and see. But, go back and really know exactly what would have happened if history changed. We don't. Trigger waves right here. Short term looks good. I think 108 is definitely in the cards here. Ethereum 3700 is the big area. Now, I have a feeling, though, just a hunch. Yeah, learn TA. You want to be trading because you like trading, not because you want to quit your job. That's the first thing I'll say. It's not easy enough where you can't be completely pat. you can't do it without really liking it. So it's the first thing I'll say. But yeah, so it's that situation there. I think in terms of probability, that's another big one. Kind of bit my tongue somehow. Anyway, I was looking at some of these altcoins. I mean, if it's like that kind of, 2019 area, some of the decent ones can outperform Bitcoin, but you gotta realize, like, it's funny too. Like, you look at, because I know a lot of people who own altcoins, including myself, I'll admit it, don't really know, who the people are behind their altcoins. They don't know, a lot of the stuff behind them. It's just like, look at like Zcash, who their CEO was, and it's like, that's who you're investing in. You know what I mean? That's who you're betting on. And nothing against it. Nothing against it at all. But, some people don't know who's the face behind the coin they're putting their hard-earned money in. I want to realize that sometimes. What do I think about Zcash? I mean, I think obviously, I think if you try to short it, you're going to get cooked. I think if you try to long it, you're going to get cooked or wrecked or whatever. But if I had to choose here, I would try to short on this bear div and try to run her down. Your risk-reward ratio is not going to be ideal here. There's probably going to be a lot of volatility. This may make new all-time highs too from here later on as... Well, I mean, let's just look at Pepe, for example. Let's look at things that have hit mania phases and what they normally do. Let's compare it to things that have gone to crazy mania phases. So, first mania phase for Pepe was, here, March of 24, it looks like. And then you came down a bit. People got their shorts, which is probably what we'll do here with Zcash or something. It's 50% down. Another all-time high, not too much long later. Then you came down again. And another new all-time high. There was kind of three strikes you're out, and now it's completely dead and probably will continue down farther. We'll see what happens. I don't know. Farcoin as well. I know the cool cats have been trading. Some people have made some serious cash on Farcoin. Nothing against Farcoin, but this was more, first peak, and then, I mean, it's not impossible for these situations to happen. This topped out when everything else did, so, Bitcoin rejects harshly here, or harshly from, 108 or wherever it may be. That's probably when Zcash will see a pullback, And I'd say you got some good odds, betting on that 2 week or 5, betting on some of these bear divs would probably be not a terrible bet, I will say. And if we look here, from where we are right now, if you were to enter a short, stop loss around there. So it's not the best risk-reward ratio. It's a thing. You probably, you could go above this point. Yeah, I'll give you that. Like 635, you could probably be okay with. But you're trying to short down like so much. That's the thing. Your stop loss is still 30%. I mean, you could go 1x or something. They're probably going to add this on a lot of, maybe the privacy aspect will not adhere to that, but they're probably going to add Zcash on some exchanges. So yeah. By the way, guys, if you want to trade over on TapBit, I didn't pin it in the chat, I forgot to, but it's in the second link down below is TapBit. BloFin's good as well. 20% for fees for life on all these exchanges. Keep your eggs spread out. Don't put everything in one basket. We are potentially getting into the bear market now. Look at history. Remember, if you deposit at least, it was 200. We lowered it down 150. If you deposit 150, get a $100 bonus. And then if you deposit at least 150 in any of the exchanges and you open a support ticket in Discord, I'll give you one free month there. If you guys want to check it out. So yeah, we'll see what happens here. And then here's the deposits. The bonuses here over on BYDFI. Check it out if you guys are interested. It looks like we're jumping. So, I mean, the thing, okay, let's talk about why I entered a long and a short at like the same exact damn price. Because there's two decent trade setups. This was the decent short trade up. You didn't get there. This is the good long trade setup. They're both 2-to-1 risk-reward ratios. If I win one of these, I'm plenty profitable. They both could get stopped out, yes. Unlikely, but it probably could happen certain times. You know what I mean? That's why you need good risk management. This is a good Bitcoin win. So, yeah, and I think that was one of the best techniques over the years that I've really, probably had the most success in, kind of just hedging the bet. Because at the end of the day, as Mark Douglas says in his book, Trading His Own, no one knows, no one knows what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. but you don't need to know what's going to happen to make money. Just a winning strategy. Easier said than done, but yeah. So, always appreciate you guys smashing the like button, all that good stuff. Let's see. Movements from top 4 coins, but hit or miss for the, yeah. We could look at Uniswap. I haven't looked at it in a minute. The thing is, like, so, you know what I wanted to look up? We'll talk about it in a minute after I look at Uniswap here. Michael Burry went short in Palantir. I want to talk about Palantir in a minute. I think on Wikipedia. I had a high school teacher that, God rest his soul, he died. But I had a high school teacher that used to pronounce Wikipedia Wilkipedia. He used to pronounce a lot of things pretty weird. He pronounced Puerto Rico. Yeah, similar to kind of how Trump pronounces it, which I guess is the proper way. But when people say it fast, it sounds like Puerto Rico. You know what I mean? Puerto Rico. They're saying it like with an American accent. Puerto Rico. But I found it funny. Wikipedia. And it was like, it wasn't that, like, he thought it was spelled with an L. Like, he actually thought, I'm pretty sure he knew how it was actually spelled. That guy. Oh, man. Some people in life, the longer I've lived in life, some people I'll probably be the same way when I'm old or whatever. Who knows? But, you know, people want control in life. I'll tell you that much. Anyway, Uniswap. I mean, you're getting this trigger wave potentially coming up in the 3 week. I mean, it's done nothing for a while. Maybe you get alt season. Maybe it jumps up. I mean, it looks better than not at the moment with the 2 week. But you're kind of just playing red dot, green dot, and going back and forth. So I don't know if she's got it in her. We'll see what happens. I think obviously, you know, I've probably heard me say this thousands of times. You know, if Bitcoin can continue, if ETH can continue, this probably can. Oh, yeah, Arthur Hayes, yeah. I'm curious, too, like, are a lot of people, I mean, obviously a lot of people are saying this time's different, we could extend into, 2026, but is that what everyone's saying on YouTube? I feel like it's kind of half and half, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like Bitcoin getting as high as it did kind of gives a very strong case to be made, combined with the technicals right now that your bull run's over, but who the hell knows? I don't really think it's worth the risk right now. And if we look at, Bitcoin SPY, not SPY, come on. I think it's probably going to eventually break down. So maybe some of these points, probably less than the last couple times, obviously, but 83, 75, maybe 62, decent point right there. Most people calling the top right now. Well, yeah. I think the thing too is like, let's just say, let's say everyone's right half the time. If everyone's wrong more than half the time, then theoretically, I guess you could counter trade them. You know what I mean? That's why a lot of people say, everyone's scared, so I'm going to buy, you know what I mean? But it's like, what if everyone's right half the time? Then what do? You know what I mean? Then you can't make money counter trading everybody. Everyone swears it's over. Not really on Twitter. Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I'm trying to remember what it feels similar. Well, it depends where you look to, I guess, because if you look hard enough or in enough places, you could find literally anyone telling you anything you can imagine. But it feels similar to the end of 21. There were people calling the tops at the end of 21. I remember there was a comment in my even the same freaking there was a person commenting a couple of times. I don't remember who the hell it was, but they were right, so a smart person. But they commented a few times around November, December, probably mainly in November of 21. I remember around Thanksgiving, I think. I'm trying to remember exactly, but around Thanksgiving, and they said they were like, can't you see it, bro? Like, how can you not see it? The bull run is over, and they were right. And there was a few comments. So yeah, and then they were right, and then even like around but yeah, are you? Let's see. So around the same thing. Around the same in October. Well, actually, it was. Okay, that person was wrong because there was a person writing very, very, very similar things. It was a different person. It had to be in August on some of the videos, like um, you know, writing similar things. You know, it's over. It's over. We did get a new all-time high for Bitcoin in October, so they were a little bit early on it, but yeah. Um, Where's today? So on the macro, I think that, you know, as I've said for a long time, and I'm pretty sure most of you guys probably remember me saying this, you know, I would flip bearish as soon as this kind of printed on the 3 week and looking like it's going to confirm 4 days. I'd remain bearish on the macro. For short term, I've entered a long and a short at the same time on Ethereum. And I mean, if you're not somebody who trades, you know, like that, then probably not something you should try to do unless you understand, you know, that if you enter a short and a long with both 2-to-1 risk reward ratios and you win one of the trades, you know, then you will be profitable. It's kind of rare that you actually end up entering the short and the long kind of at the same price. But yeah. So I do think, shout out to Johnny M. I do think that in all likelihood the bull run probably is over. I would get more optimistic. So here's one strategy, and this is important. Not too many people talk about this. If you bought every time the 3-day went back, let's back test this a little bit. I was talking about it earlier. I'll talk about it again. It's important. If you bought every time the 3-day, okay, so if you sold here when it went to the gray, and you bought back here, you would have kind of missed out on a little bit, and then you could have even been ahead slightly, bought at a slightly better price or the same. Got some good jumps. I'm not saying I didn't do any of this. In hindsight, it could have worked better, but who cares? I still made money on the way up. You know, same thing here. You know, got out and then got back in. I mean, it's a really good strategy in general. And the more like the more good the asset does in terms of, especially like right here. Okay, I mean right here you would have had to weather through some nonsense a little bit, you know, some fear, but you know, it would have paid off pretty well. I remember 23 pretty well. And, you know, same thing here. Obviously, this one, you know, that area you would have got out kind of at some lower areas, but you would have got it back in at 40 and then you wrote it up. And I mean, this was a little bit of a weird situation, but getting out here was the important part, obviously, you know, that kind of area. And that would have been December, which wouldn't have been half bad, especially for altcoins. So, again, if we just wait until to kind of, you know, I would say get back in on that 3-day on these EMAs, that's when I would turn more bullish. That's when I would absolutely turn more bullish. That could be anywhere from a month, maybe even a few weeks, now probably at least 3 to 4 weeks, to 8 months, you know. That's kind of the thing there. So as long as that remains gray, I would remain bearish. As long as we remain with, you know, red dots on, I mean, some people probably don't care about the 3-month, but there is a red dot in the 3-month, confirmed one on the 2-month. Bear did for the first time ever in the 2-month, I believe. Or actually, if you go on it, I think it's the second one, if you go on a different, you know, chart with more data from the early days from 2011 or whatever, 2009. But yeah. So, you know, that's the objective thing we're looking at. I don't think the best question to ask is, you know, whether it's over or not. The question to ask is like, what do I do? You know what I mean? What's my strategy? What am I going to do if this happens? And, you know, I mean, in terms of 2019, I do think that Ethereum, and that would be obviously as always the main all that I personally like to bet on. Along with a few others that haven't done as well as I would have hoped. But let's be real. Ethereum potentially can outperform Bitcoin for the next couple of years like it did back here the last time you ended QT. So just keep that in mind. You know, if you look at the weekly, you're still in the kind of... I'm curious on that. You're still in the brights here on the 3-day. And you may remain in those brights for a while. Let's look at how it was. And come on, load. Let's look at how it was in 2019. Yeah, once you got into those brights, man, you were good to go for a while. You had that issue December 2020 a little bit, but yeah, you're kind of good to go there. So that's that view. So yeah, I mean, look. I know. Let's talk about here. I want to go to the Wikipedia page for Michael Burry because it kind of called out his like bad trades. He did have okay. I think he's only had one winning trade since '08, but still, he's due to win. I think he shorted Palantir. I don't know if that's kind of like shorting Zcash right now. It'll probably win, but you're gonna have everyone and their brother trying to hunt you out. Believe me. Um, uh, damn. What's an I? Yeah. Anyway. Mm, didn't it say? Okay. I mean, got this part right generally, although these probably bled against, a lot against the. I think these will do well in the 2030s, commodities, that type of stuff. But yeah, the Tom. Mm, well, I mean, the thing is, and I think that I don't really know anybody who makes money that doesn't realize that anything could happen, and no one knows. It's all a game of probability. So, um, I am more bearish right now than Nick Cipher. However, he's done very well in some months, so maybe you should go over to his channel and just watch what he's talking about. Maybe he's better to watch right now then. Really good guy. So yeah. But I think it's important to start to kind of understand what I'm talking about and see the reasoning here. It's more about understanding what I'm looking at. So yeah. The Tom Lee stuff, the first thing I'll say is so far the sequel has been a lot worse than the original, I think. Let's just look at BMMR versus ETH. You had that jump on the hype and that's just crashed. Not too good. BMMR versus Bitcoin. Probably, yeah. The hype on that and then nothing, so we'll see. The death cross happens really soon if it hasn't happened already. I could care less about that. I think that's similar to kind of the 3 day here. That could be the end for a while. It could be. Doesn't mean it is, but it could be. So we'll see. So yeah. Hmm. This doesn't say what is. He had. There was more about like his maybe Gronkopedia. Gronkopedia. Has anyone gone in this? Yeah. Okay. So it's probably gonna say it's on the Wikipedia for Gronkopedia. It's probably gonna say it's not good. But I just want to see if that because there were like some of his. I'm just trying to. Oh, it's not. There's no Michael Burry page. Did I spell it right? I guess there's none. Anyway, oh well. Not gonna work there, but anyway. Didn't I just do a VC a couple days ago? Pump on government reopen after tonight's vote or whether Trump signs it. I think price is kind of already factored in. I don't necessarily trade on news. It could come up farther. Maybe want to wait. So yeah, I appreciate the likes, Decrypto. But yeah. That's interesting. You wouldn't think that doesn't really make sense. Yeah. Mortgage demand's going up. It's still a high interest rate. I mean, yeah. Or higher. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe the housing market's going to come up a little bit. It would make sense. It's definitely been lagging. I'll say that, but yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I mean it is a little choppy. I'm just hedging a bit. We'll see what happens. Um, all right, let's look at power. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, unless this time is very different than the end of 21 or the end of, you know, 2017 into 2018. Unless it's very different, we're going to see a lot of stuff potentially come down. Now, I think this can ride upward to 1 to 220 something. I think this is like it does look really bearish. Yeah, the price to earnings ratio, I don't even want to look at that, but I don't even feel like looking at that, but I know it's probably bad. Yeah, it does look pretty bearish. We'll see what happens here. Maybe it just keeps going up to infinity like Nvidia kind of had. You know, that's the thing too with trying to short some of these. I mean, obviously Palantir will eventually come back. My guess is that it will have a pretty boring to bad, 2026. But we shall see. Nvidia as well. I would guess that you're kind of getting towards a high. Your 3 week still looks okay. Your monthly's about to get a bear div. That's interesting on this thing, like only freaking, yeah. You're kind of due for some type of pullback, but yeah. Thing here is that if we look at Bird right there. It looks overheated. I mean, I'd be lying if I said it didn't look overheated here as well, but yeah, it did play out, so we'll see. I'm just thinking here. Well, Solana is another. Jump right there. Yeah. Definitely could jump more. Solana is not. It's in the grays in the 2 day. I mean, if you look at the last time it's gone into the grays in 2 day EMAs, I mean, there's probably a ton of times because this thing hasn't done anything for a while. I mean, yeah, since frickin'. Which this is most altcoins. And this is like, I mean, it's my least favorite pattern. Take it with a grain of salt, but. I guess you're one of your obvious kind of, I'm just curious where that would be from the cycle highs. 76. Hell of a lot better in this correction, I'll tell you that much. If you come down to some of those points, so, yeah. 96. This did not look like this, like, the best possible case scenario happened a lot of times with this. Because, I mean, from June to there, from Bitcoin at 17K to 15K, this went down 70%. Not too good. Not too good. So, yeah. Who knows? I mean, who knows? Who knows what it will do? But, objectively, I think the markets all look pretty overheated. Let's look at the SPY. Standard and Poor 500. You're poor if you own this. No, I'm just kidding. Bear div forming. I would guess maybe another jump up and then probably a correction next year. Maybe I'm wrong. but we'll see. I mean, that's 10% down there. I would guess 20. You know, not enough for a recession, but a significant healthy correction or whatever. I mean, 2022 was what? This was about 27. I mean, nothing terrible. But when you factor in inflation, you were at 10% inflation there. So it was like 40%, I think. Against the Dixie, it was like close to 40%. So kind of bad, you know, in terms of buying power, I'll say that. If we look at SPY Dixie, let's take a look. I haven't looked at that in a while. You got some more to go next couple of years, if that's the case. Probably will. Yeah. I mean, just thinking like next. I mean, let's say 26 is bullish. That's 18%. Yeah, I mean, if we're looking at 4 more years, or 6, 7, 8, yeah, about 4 more years, a little over 10% a year, 12% a year, strong decade would make sense. And then you got 3% inflation, so it's really like 1% lower every year, or 2% when you factor in the taxes you got to pay in these gains. So take away 2% from that, it's 10% a year. Still pretty good. The one that I've been thinking about a lot here, guys, has been SPY versus Triple Q. I feel like this should have a jump at some point, but man, I mean, when you look at the SPY versus Triple Q, it's like, what the hell is the point of buying the SPY? Just getting the Triple Q, but I mean, you get a little bit here and there every time the market has a correction. 22 is the big one. But, yeah, it's just not... It almost looks like it wants to go down farther, too. I mean, yeah. But when you look at, like, you know, it almost feels like that freaking Triple Q is like the new, like... God's ETF, you know. I mean, Berkshire Hathaway seems like it's got a good shot of starting to outperform the SPY a little bit soon. Nice jump right there. You know, down slightly, but I think you can continue. Excuse me. Can potentially continue upward. Thing here is like, let's do that little. I'm looking at these EMAs. Yeah, this isn't really. It's just choppy. Yeah, these EMAs won't tell you. And bear there. Now you're going into. I think you'll avoid going into all the grays there. Or you could argue every time it's gone into the grays. Yeah, in the 2 week, it's kind of been not a bad buy area. Yeah, all the way back for a long time. Yeah. But yeah. Let's see. It was at 9 a.m. on the East Coast. So regular market hasn't even opened. Is today the day that they're gonna officially end the government shutdown, I think? There's still like long lines at airports and stuff. Let's see, what is Fox News saying? It's probably old news now. They're not even talking about the government shutdown anymore. Freaking UC Berkeley, man. Just think about, like, I mean, I went to college about 10 years ago now. I graduated in 2019, but I mean, as ridiculous as it was back then with all the, you know, commotion over nothing, you know, it's probably even so much worse now to be a college student in the U.S. I mean, it just was not the best environment in some ways, but there's pros and cons, I guess. Interesting with Rogan being so much on Yeah, I mean, like Fox News has just gone more towards, yeah. Um, mm, wait, so okay, now living off parents' money, could was she really young? Katie
I'm
Wilson.
going to go back to that repeat offender question.
Who is? Oh, that's her. Not that young. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know why I don't really follow political news too much. It's all nonsense and rage bait generally, but um, no, there's nothing about the government shutdown. Nobody cares about that. They just care about this gossipy stuff mainly. Um, hmm. Cowboys suck this year, right? Are they good this year? No, I don't think so. They haven't been good in a while. Cowboys are not. Um, what do you mean? I look younger than you would have? How old do you think I am? Oh, by my voice, you thought I was older or whatever. Are you a new viewer? Um, yeah, I don't think people are finding it too interesting. Just me looking at the news, but yeah. Um, is there anything going on right now? Coming down slightly. I mean, yeah, rejection from there. I kind of would say, hopefully, we reject, rip the band-aid off. Just we'll see. How crypto Twitter and all that is. Let's look at that. Speaking of crypto Twitter, I mean, do people call it X now? I feel like people are starting to kind of call it X a little bit more, but it's not quite there yet. 74 likes on this. This is a good, yeah. Like, I feel like the answer is no. We still work if you had 1 billion, but can you get to 1 bill without being addicted to working? So, yeah, like, how do you know? Are you a billionaire? I mean, like, it's just like, depends on how you define what being a hustler is. But yeah. Anyway, found that interesting. Cool. You guys follow me on Twitter. I always appreciate that. I've been posting on there a little bit more lately. Um, hmm. That's the best 3 legs. If you guys don't know what the third leg is, you probably don't have a third leg. But yeah. Oh, no, I'm 28. I started college about 10 years ago, I think. Yeah, yeah. I graduated like in 2019, so yeah. I would think most people would guess I'm probably between like 25, 30, late 20s. Yeah. 15K to 1. I'm still in that. Yeah. I mean, I'm still in the thing. That would be if ETH can get to like 30K by the end of the decade and outperform. Are we bearish? That's what a stupid question to ask. Are we bearish? No, I'm just kidding. On the macro, I would remain bearish. But yeah, no, it did okay. I mean, ETH did not get to 7,000 or the number. Like it's gonna be. It's gotten harder to get to a full 1 mil from that, but probably 500K. And if you actually watch the video, it talks about different scenarios. But you so yeah, I mean, I obviously, you know, I think if you have like maybe 30. I mean, now would be the time to convert it over to the SPY or other things that have been outperforming Bitcoin and ETH. But I mean, and then towards if you can get better evaluations against the SPY, um, then then wait a sec. No. All-time low. Yeah. It's like who after Trump came out with a meme coin, like who didn't come out with a meme coin? Um, hmm, but yeah, 10K, okay. By next year, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that if you can get, you know, you can get 30K into like the S&P 500, or let's say 30K. If you can get half a Bitcoin, if you can get half a Bitcoin, say Bitcoin goes down to 60K or 50K. If you can get half a Bitcoin and Bitcoin goes up to 2 or 300K by the end of the decade, let's say 300K, that's 150. If you can get more than that with ETH, you're looking at potentially, 400 or more, 500. So yeah, it's more like 15K to 500K at this point, I think. You kind of already doubled your ETH with that strategy to a certain extent, and that would have been the time to kind of get out. In my opinion, we'll see what happens though. So yeah, but I mean, realistically, I mean, if you get, I mean, what I would say too is like if you can get 50K, if you can get a full Bitcoin, let's say you get a full Bitcoin, and you can convert that to kind of ETH at the right time or whatever. Or says maybe ETH has bottomed out with Bitcoin for a while. I mean, maybe if you can get into ETH at, I mean, if you can get 50K into ETH at 2,000, I'm just like thinking, it's 25, let's say 15K or no 50K into ETH at 2,000, and then ETH goes 10x from there, 20,000. That's 500,000. There's your 500,000. I mean, there's these things. There's those. That point. To get to a million's a little bit harder than I sort of. We would have wanted ETH to go to 7,000. This 7 to 10,000 this year to do that, and that doesn't look likely with just a month and a half left. Looks very unlikely now. I'm curious about, they've been moving around. There's not really a pure consensus, but polymarket odds on Bitcoin and ETH for end of year. Let's start with Bitcoin. And I don't think many people who actually know what they're doing with the betting are probably putting money on where does Bitcoin go, or that type by in 2025. But people are thinking under 100K. I think that's, I would probably take that bet. 120 is not impossible, but to make a new all-time high, that's where it gets low. Numbers people want are very low. It's like I've just seen this happen before so many times, guys. I mean, when you've been doing this, when you've been watching this as long as me, there's some things you just get used to, like to certain patterns, like certain, like the environment, the attitudes, like all these things, like it just seems very repetitive to me. After 10 years in crypto, I still sell everything soon and put into stocks. Yeah, I mean, the thing with Big A, I think you'd want a little bit of international exposure too. Like, I mean, the thing too is like if you got I mean, well, it depends how much risk you want, obviously, but VOO would be great for like half of it. 20% could be VT. There's 30% left, maybe 20% triple Q. And then, well, I would keep 10% crypto at least, probably. But the last 10% in the stock area, that would be maybe some international exposure, I don't know, bonds, things of that nature. It wasn't that much easier to trade Bitcoin in 21, man. That was there are so many people going degenerately long, and I mean sometimes they got their trades. Not always though, not always. But yeah. But 10 years in crypto. Nice, man. Nice. That's good. 7 figures. I mean, 7 figures ain't bad. Yeah, ain't bad. I mean, the thing there is like, I mean, 7 figures in the VOO. Let's just say you put it all in the VOO. I mean, 5 to 10% a year. If you took out 4% a year, the 4% rule, the fire rule, or whatever, which probably will do well. I mean, assuming you don't see a depression, you'll probably be fine with that. Could see, I mean, a depression, New World Order, all that crap, but VT is, oh yeah. A little delayed on that. Yeah. I don't use really either of those, but I think most people probably use ChatGPT now. It's pronounced Wikipedia. Was it VT? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, VT is good too. Yeah, I haven't bought that one, but that theoretically would do better. 2030s, I would be careful. I would have some gold exposure too. But let's just say you had, let's say the $1 million and you took out 4% a year. I mean, that's 40 grand, which is nothing spectacular. But I mean, what's the actually long-term capital gains? How much could you take out every year without even paying taxes? But yeah. I think you'll probably see UBI in the 2030s if I had to guess. That's what I would guess. Pelosi's retiring now. Is McConnell stepping down? I think he is too. I don't know when though. But yeah, what do I think about Solana? Could have come up a little bit more here, but I'm not too hopeful on the macro, unfortunately. I don't know. Your boy's a little more bearish on the macro, but that's that. Anyway, I think I'm probably gonna get going pretty soon. UBI is not going to be that much, man. Like, there's not going to be the funding for it, at least not in the beginning. I mean, it's not going to be, it won't help or really make that much of a difference, I don't think. Like, at most, it'll be like $1,000 a month, Like, it's not, you're still going to have to work and do stuff. Like, I don't think it's going to be, Like, and they're probably not going to let you, like, you're not going to be able to make the $1,000 a month and then live in somewhere where it's really cheap to live. Like, you're going to have to still live in the US or whatever, where it's expensive. I don't think you would have to do it would be like $1,000 a month plus you working for minimum wage, 40 hours a week would probably be just enough to make ends meet. That's probably what it's going to give you, man. Like, it's not going to be where, it's still going to be where you have to do. I mean, I guess the most optimistic route is like the average person would be able to work part-time in some unskilled labor, some unskilled job. But I mean, there's not going to be many of those around, It's probably still going to be, people getting skills and working a lot of hours plus the UBI. Rental properties income, so wouldn't plan to take any drawdowns, just tired of the huge swings in crypto, yeah. Sure. Yeah, I mean, the thing with, I'm not an expert on that in particular, but obviously the cash flow being diversified. I mean, for somebody trying to be more conservative, obviously, being more diversified, that would be good. The last 2 decades that real estate outperformed the S&P 500 were 70s and from 2000 to 2010. So, yeah. Farmland, I think, could be an option. You got to know what the hell you're doing, though. I'm not the person to ask about farmland, but I do think it may have some potential in the 2030s. So, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, ideally, like once you get to, if you want to, like, I mean, you would just listen to people like, you just listen to like people, just standard like financial advisors at that point. Like, crypto would be 5 to 10% of your net worth. The real estate would be, I mean, I don't know, 20%. Something like that. You're up to 30 there. The VOO would be like 20 or 30. That's 60. And then the last, 30 to 40 would be maybe 10% gold, and the last 30 would be international stuff, plus, or maybe 10% triple Q and 20% international, or vice versa. What was I? Oh, this is interesting, man. Important point about that. So I think the ultra rich, and ultra rich in this case being like people worth over, 15 mil, I think, or 10 mil, let's say 15 mil, make it easy. 1/3 of their like net worth is generally in real estate. I think it's usually like their primary residence. Like they may have a $5 million house or something. If you're worth 15 mil, I think that would be kind of average, especially for Americans. And then 5 mil is in stuff like generally S&P 500, but it could be part of that could be real estate credit, part of that could be the Nasdaq, part of that could be individual stocks, stuff like that. And the last 30% a lot of times is in a hedge fund. A good hedge fund generally, usually they could pick the right ones, and they do well with those generally when the market goes down. So they're kind of hedged in a way. So yeah. Do I think young people are in a better or worse position of financial ability to collect capital from zero? Just 5 figures. That's a big difference. I mean, if you have just 10K, that's a big difference than if you had 90K, obviously. Huge difference, man. It's like, that's the thing. I think if you have 1 million versus 9 million, that's a huge difference. I mean, that's at night. But, better or worse position than when? Than what year? I mean, that's such a, I don't know, than when? Then the 1920s, 1930s, yes. But I think there's pros and cons. I think if you're resourceful, I think if you want to be an entrepreneur and you want to do something with the internet, something remotely where you don't have to deal with employees or other nonsense, there's the most opportunity for that. I think if you want to climb the corporate ladder, and be treated well and, get a lot of benefits and have a good work-life balance, I think it's obviously worse for that. I mean, in the 1980s or 1990s, it wasn't too feasible for you to go live in Mexico or go live in somewhere cheap. Now you could kind of do that, with all the technology. So yeah, 5K in your prop account. Well, that's a very low. Is that the lowest prop account you can get? How do you stay disciplined? Slong. Do it for a while. Good risk very strict risk management, I would say. So yeah. I think it's unwise to really think about, whether young people are in a worse or better position than historically, because it's like one of those things you can't really do much to change. You just have to act on what you have now. That's what I would say. I would look into law of attraction, read books, try to do things you generally like. If something's really making you miserable, do what you can to get out of it, I would say. So, yeah, that's just my 2 cents. Yeah, I mean, big A, I think that's kind of, it depends, like, how old you are and all those type of things. But, yeah, I mean, kind of, my view on that. I mean, obviously, I would think that the thing there is like it depends. Like I would towards the end of this decade, I would hedge for like a potential bad decade. So I would be like heavier gold. I'd be heavier like less volatile things. Maybe even a little bit heavier real estate because it's more stable. But then again, my fear with that is if there's less of a population, you would probably need less real estate, so it could go down. If there's less population, you kind of even need less food, so maybe even farmland isn't the move. Maybe just a scarce thing would be Bitcoin. But if there's less of a population, you don't even need as much Bitcoin, right? So everything goes down. So yeah. It's interesting how you mentioned Finland. I spent a month in Finland. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't even know what a BBA is. Is that business? I think. Finland has a really good work-life balance. I don't know if you traveled too much, man, but I mean, Finnish people are generally pretty happy. It's considered the happiest country. They're generally pretty friendly. You're very lucky to be in Finland. Now, there's definitely negatives to being in Finland. Your climate sucks. Pretty terrible climate, in my opinion. Depends on what you like. But the positives outweigh a lot of the negatives there. Work life, even if you just live a standard life, I mean, the work life balance is really good there. It's a really safe country. Your food is expensive, but it's pretty high quality. Your rent prices are not that bad. Accommodation is not that bad in Finland, I would say. It depends, I guess, depends where you are, but it's a kind of a boring country in some ways, I guess. I mean, your sauna culture is cool. Your health culture is really good. I mean, I would say you're pretty lucky to be in Finland. The good thing about Finland too is like, I mean, if you start a business, you could move that business over to Dubai and not have to pay any high taxes in Finland. Um, and I think you could buy property in Finland and your property taxes aren't even that high. Yeah, bachelor of business. I mean, if it's free and you enjoy it, I think you should keep doing it. If you're learning something. But I mean, obviously, a lot of that stuff you could learn your own. It depends what you want to do, man. I mean, if you really hate it, I would drop out and try something else. If it's making you miserable, I would try something else. You know, but I would assume it's probably not making you miserable. You know, something of that nature. I mean, it's free. I would say. I mean, that money, you're all in on crypto. I mean, cool. Like, I mean, it's maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, that could be half of what it is now in 6 months. If Bitcoin dumps, it could be half. I mean, it depends what you're in, all that type of stuff. I mean, rule of thumb, what people say is like, if you can save up, work hard, and like save up 50 to 100 grand, then when you actually invest it or actually use it to start a business, you'll be very careful with it because you actually worked hard for that money. You got discipline. You won't like do stupid things like blow it all on meme coins and dumb stuff. You know what I mean? You'll actually be careful with it. Or if you use it to start a business, you'll actually maybe succeed. So there's that. For somebody in a place like Finland, I mean, you have a lot going for you, I will say. Like probably even more so than the U.S. In a lot of ways, I would imagine. Well, maybe not a lot of ways, but I mean, like especially with the internet too. I mean, there's a lot of I would say there's a lot of opportunity. Probably even like if you can play your cards right and be resourceful, probably a lot of opportunity. I think the thing too is like, I mean, I know in this day and age, like, in America, everything's kind of like politically correct and stuff, but like, if you're Finnish, like, let's just be real. If you're Finnish, like, you got blonde hair, you may have blue eyes, statistically, probably. I mean, that's very exotic, and those countries do not have many. The population of that is getting less and less and less. I mean, you're internationally, you are very exotic, and you are going to stand out in a lot of ways. That will help you immensely for dating in some places too. Especially somebody your age is probably thinking about that. I would think so. That's one of the things you got going for you too. You know, I would say, I mean, Nordics is like, the people are not that much drama. They're really nice people. You're lucky to be there compared to the U.S. in a lot of ways. Not every way. It depends what you're trying to do, but, living a long and prosperous life, Finland a pretty good place. Climate sucks, though. So you want to get to, well, it depends what you want, but you want to get to a position where you got the money to be able to maybe get the hell out of there when there's only 3 hours a day, 5 hours of daylight or whatever. Those kind of things. But yeah. Thoughts on leverage S&P 500? Doing that now, probably a terrible idea. It's like leverage trading anything else, man. I mean, there's decay. You're gonna get less than you deserve, and you're gonna feel it more than everyone else when the market goes backwards. When did this come out? Okay. Look at when this came out. It only went down 50. That's wow. Yeah, I mean, unless the U.S. loses its place as the world power, and goes into a very bad recession in the 2030s, which both of which things I think are very likely to happen. Unless those two things don't happen, then this will probably still do very well. One technique with something like this, I wouldn't bet anything more on this than you're willing to lose just for safety measures. That's the thing too. You're probably better than you realize a lot of individual people like buying stocks. Maybe you're just better off to use leverage on the S&P 500. Maybe there's less risk in some ways. I mean, what would you have gotten from if you got in around here? Up 100%. Nice. Every time you go into the gray on this weekly is a pretty good buy, I would say. Let's even back test that to the recession. There you go. Sell, buy. That weekly, those EMAs don't lie a lot of times. I mean, you can look at a lot of things, but those EMAs do not lie. However, if you bought now and then we go into the gray in a few months, like, you're probably going to be selling for a loss. So be careful. I don't think, like, you got to have, like, it's like trading anything else, man. You got to have a strategy with it. Take profit, stop losses, that type of stuff. So, yeah. Is there there's still, it's less of a dividend, but there is a dividend, yeah. I mean, there's the NASDAQ. I mean, wait a second. Is this even, I feel like this isn't even as much leverage as, there's probably a little bit of leverage, but, what was this? Let's see. I'm hedging ETH, man. It's a technique. One of these should win. We'll find out. But it's a good question, John. I haven't looked at Chainlink. This is probably the last thing I'll look at. Been on about an hour now. If you can keep following this pattern, yeah, trigger wave to go up farther, yeah, definitely some potential. We'll see what happens. I don't know. But when you zoom out more, it gets bearish. That 3 week is very scary. It's not a good 3 week. The last time I had there, you know what I mean? Just be careful. Let's see. So the thing is, John, that's a surprising part that a lot of people don't realize. So the chart I want to show you is, and I think your alts that are going to die anyway will die regardless, but you would think throughout this period, I'll circle it, throughout this period we would have been really bullish throughout kind of here. We would have been bullish because ETH went up against Bitcoin. No, we corrected. So ETH and some alts, the ones that will survive, probably will outperform Bitcoin over the next 4 to 6 months, even if we do go into bear markets. Just keep that in mind. Because of QT ending. Yeah, I mean, it's a small amount, 20K, and right now, you're looking at a market that may, bleed against S&P 500 for many months. So just keep that in mind, but yeah. I would maybe look into prop trading if I were you with smaller capital. Get good, maybe mess around with some demo accounts, get good at that, and then maybe look into prop trading. Because you can obviously do a lot more with small amounts with that. Anyway, guys, if you're interested in trading on TapBit, we are doing I forgot to mention this. Just register, you get $50. You don't have to deposit nothing. I think they give you like one trade on 1x leverage. And I think it closed out after 1 day, but it's cool, man. It's a cool, I've only seen one other exchange ever offer this, and they don't do it very often. So check it out on TapBit. And there's a nice deposit bonus too. Deposit 150, get 100. And remember, if you guys sign up, it's the second link down below. So to any of these exchanges down below, deposit at least $150. They'll give you 1 free month in Aldo Empire VIP Discord. We got a lot of good stuff in there. So yeah. Chain Opera. I'd look at it, man. I just don't feel like looking. I'm a little tired right now. I'm kind of done. So, there can be some prop trading exchanges that don't do payouts, but I've used Breakout. I've been fine. CryptoFace, I've known a lot of people that have used Breakout and have been good, but um, you know, I don't. That one is not a scam, but I'm sure some of them have done sketchy stuff, like a lot of, like almost every other exchange. So yeah, keep that in mind.